Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded, the price it was paid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets break clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Welcome, my friends. This is the Medlock Post Radio Show, and I'm your host, Richard G. Medlock. This is the all-American program where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. It is also where we stand for the red, white, and blue. Today is April 5th, 2023. Today's episode is our 131st episode. We're still in season 1, but the title today of this show, and it might confuse a small amount of you out there, Year 1 of the New World Order. And you're saying, what is he talking about? Year 1. Well, we're going to get into that, but let's get some other things out of the way first. Some not really incidentals, but important things. Now, yesterday, the Lady Up podcast went live, was released, that Diane Canada, Tom Herron, and myself recorded last Thursday. You can see it on the Lady Up app. You can see it on YouTube, on the Lady Up YouTube channel. You can see it on my medlockpostblogspot.com or on either one of my Medlock Post Facebook groups. One is private and one is public. So it's out there, folks. She's going to send me the audio and it will be one of our shows. I'll pop it up as one of our shows. It was a great segment. It was entitled "A Time to Heal," and it's a good listen. A lot to learn from it. Now, quickly on the Trump indictment. Now, first off, the liberals did not get the circus in New York that they wanted. They wanted a total circus. They wanted riots. They wanted rocks thrown and all kind of things going on. They wanted fights, and it didn't happen. They were so disappointed. The news media was disappointed, the liberal news media. What's wrong with these people? They're Trump supporters. They're the bad guys. No, they're not. So that didn't happen. The Secret Service that takes care of Donald Trump made sure that the police in New York never laid a hand on him. I don't know if you noticed some of the videos. I was in an appointment when all of it was coming down live, and I tried to watch some of it. It was a doctor's appointment, my annual eye exam, where you get dilated and you can't see anything afterwards. Especially me, I see triple when I'm dilated because of past injuries and surgeries. But the 34 indictments of intent is what they're being called. He intended to. It never, ever mentioned a crime. There were no federal stuff in there, federal crimes in there. It's kind of interesting. Everybody, even CNN last night, everybody on CNN talked about the farce of this situation. Now, the dates going forward are really suspicious. Alvin Bragg doesn't have to present the details of those indictments until August. They should be ready right now. But to August, they go to a hearing December 4th and trial in January of 2024, the month that primary voting starts. Now, the judge he did what he was supposed to do in court, did not issue a gag order, but issued a warning. But anyway, intent, criminal intent, in your first year business law in college, when we started getting into torts and criminal things and all that, it was interesting. The first thing we were taught is intention or intent is the hardest thing to prove. All right. So that's it going on. Go, Lady Up America podcast. Just search engine it, Lady Up America podcast, or download the Lady Up America app, or go to YouTube and watch it, or my Facebook pages, the Medlock Post and Medlock Post, or my blog, Medlock Post. All right. It's there, so it's wonderful. The title of the program, Year 1 of the New World Order. On March 23rd, this was put together by Stephen Yates. But before we get to that, I want to do a review. You've heard us talk about it. Tom and I mentioned it on last Friday's episode, the Bilderberg Group. We do a quick overview of the Bilderberg Group. They were established in 1954, and the most powerful men in the world met for the first time in Oosterbeek, Netherlands. They debated the future of the world and decided to meet annually in secret, and they still meet today in secret. Nobody can get in. No media, no outsider, whatever. They called themselves the Bilderberg Group, with a membership representing a who's who of the world power elites, mostly from America, Canada, and Western Europe. Names like David Rockefeller, and you're going to hear his name a couple of times today, Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton, Gordon Brown, Angela Merkel, Alan Greenspan, Ben Bernanke, Larry Summers, Tim Geithner, Lloyd Blankfein, George Soros, who's backing evil stuff, Donald Rumsfeld, Rupert Murdoch, other heads of state, influential senators, congressmen, and parliamentarians, Pentagon and NATO brass, members of European royalty, selected media figures, and invited others, some quietly by some accounts, like Barack Obama and many of his top officials. And yes, Barack Obama is a member of the Bilderberg Group. Absolutely. Joe Biden is a member. Always well represented are top figures from the Council for Foreign Relations, or also the IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, Trilateral Commission, European Union, and powerful central bankers, and from our own Federal Reserve. The European Central Bank is represented, and the Bank of England is represented. Now, whatever its early mission, the group is now a shadow world government, threatening to take away our right to direct our own destinies by creating a disturbing reality very much harming the public's welfare. In short, Bilderbergs want to supplant individual nation-state sovereignty with an all-powerful global government, corporate-controlled and checkmated by militarized enforcement. Now, I'm just doing an overview because I'm going to do another show and go into details about the Bilderberg Group if I don't get shut down. They wanted to create an aristocracy of purpose between Europe and the United States, and to reach a consensus to rule the world on matters of policy, economics, and overall strategy. NATO was essential for their plans because that was the military aspect. They wanted to ensure perpetual war and nuclear blackmail, which is what Russia is threatening now, is nuclear blackmail. Then proceed to loot the planet, achieve fabulous wealth and power, and crush all challengers to keep it. Now, the Rothschilds are part of this. As patriarch Amschel Rothschild once said, "Give me control of the nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws." Are we not seeing that happen in America today? They have a group steering committee, and this one world order governance is run by top power elites. Now, I'm going to skip forward, but here's some of their objectives. One, international identity. Central control of world populations by mind control. We're finding out that's not hard to do. A new world order with no middle class. A zero growth society without prosperity or progress. Only greater wealth and power to the rulers. Does that sound familiar? Manufactured crises and perpetual wars. Absolute control of education. mind control, centralized control of all foreign and domestic policies, using the UN as a de facto world government, and imposing a UN tax on world citizens, which has been done. It was done last year through the United States proposals through Janet Yellen to the group of 20 that adopted it, that 15% corporate tax. Expanding NAFTA and WTO, World Trade Organizations. Well, NAFTA has expanded. It's changed. It's a different name now. Making NATO a world military. Well, that's changing, but there will be a world, or they're trying to have a world military, and imposing a universal legal system. So much here. Three other things. Council of Foreign Relations, okay, was created in 1921 by Edward Mandell House. He was Woodrow Wilson's chief of advisory and a Marxist. And he brought about the Federal Reserve and the tax system. It was his ideas. And then you have the Trilateral Commission founded by David Rockefeller, who was one of the founding, his father was one of the founding members of the Bilderberg Group. All right, I'm going to leave that where it is with the Bilderberg Group, because let's get to the Trilateral Commission that declared 2 weeks ago that 2023 is year one of the New World Order. That's a bold statement, isn't it? And there's a lot of reasons they're saying this. Now, Tom and I mentioned it quickly on Friday's show, is that the United States now has been weakened enough under the Biden administration that the New World Order feels like they can come in. Trump was standing between us and globalism, and he did a darn good job keeping them out. Now, let's get into some of this. H.G. Wells wrote a book entitled The New World Order in 1940. Yeah, because this has been talking about. Woodrow Wilson tried to use after World War I at the Versailles Treaty to set up a one world government. It failed at that time. So there's a lot of talk been going on. He says, quote, countless people will hate the New World Order, be rendered unhappy by frustration of their passions and ambitious through its advent, and will die protesting against it. When we attempt to estimate its promise, we have to bear in mind the distress of a generation or so of malcontents, many of them quite gallant and graceful-looking people, unquote. David Rockefeller, in his 2002, a memoir, this is on page 105. It's also in the Bilderberg report. He said in there, for more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will, if that's the charge. I stand guilty and I am proud of it. David Rockefeller, 2002. So he says we are part of a cabal to take over the world and to destroy the United States and its Constitution. Here we are, folks. It's right in front of us. Been there for a long time. I've talked about this for as long as I've been on the radio, and even before that, in lectures and talks and so forth. I read this Friday, Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, which is the public arm of the Bilderberg Group. It is the PR, public relations arm of the Bilderberg Group. But he said last year in their annual report, today a new dividing line exists in politics and society. It is the division between globalism and nationalism, between corporation and protectionism, between embracing the new and preserving the old. So, okay, folks, we got the old, but it's no good anymore. The new is coming in. Globalism is coming in. New politics, etc. Now, he said even stronger things at their meeting this year. Said even stronger things. So, with all these predictions that there's going to be a global human conscious is for the first time beginning to manifest itself. A global human conscious. That was from 1970 by Brzezinski. Well, it's happened, folks. At a confab in New Delhi, India, its annual plenary meeting, March 10th through 12th, the Trilateral Commission declared 2023 year one of the New World Order. One speech comes to our attention courtesy of James Baker, who served in the Trilateral Commission-controlled Carter administration and is described as having served on the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment. Baker did not identify the speaker. Apparently doing so would have violated commission rules. In any event, this is what the speaker said. The Biden administration is trying, this happened 3 weeks ago. The Biden administration is trying to convince the world that there is this titanic struggle between autocracies and democracies. I am skeptical about that. 3 decades of globalization defined as integrated, free market-based, and deflationary has been replaced by what will be a multi-decade period of globalization defined as fragmented, not free market-based, but industrial policy-based and structurally inflationary. This year, 2023, is year one of this new global order. In other words, my friends, the free enterprise capitalism you may have learned about in college and operated under for many years, they're saying is dead. It is being replaced by industrial policy, global corporatism, the primary method of which is technocracy, and key decisions are made by so-called experts and imposed on populations in top-down fashion. As we've stated many times before, Western powers are not democracies. In genuine democracies, informed voters would put a stop to such shenanigans at the ballot box. And it's not happening at the ballot box. We've seen that over the last couple of elections. The Trilateral Commission was founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller Sr., Zbigniew Brzezinski, and Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was the United States Secretary of State at the time in 1973. And it was to further the development of what was then called the New International Economic Order, integrating the economies of North America, Europe, and Asia. Now, back then, that only included Japan, but now it includes China. Remember that Nixon opened the doors with dialogue with China. And it's been downhill ever since. And Henry Kissinger was the mindset behind that. Brzezinski had just published the book that we quoted from a couple of things from before. Rockefeller read it and arranged a meeting, giving Rockefeller's huge Rolodex, reputed to have contained 10,000 names and phone numbers. One thing led to another, and one of the most powerful semi-secret globalist organizations was born, the Trilateral Commission. And it's an arm of the Bilderberg Group. The same people that sit on the Trilateral Commission sit at the Bilderberg Group. These are no secrets, folks. Brzezinski's book outlined 3 essential stages of modern times. The first was nationalism, being transcended by global economic actors even as he wrote it. The second was Marxism, which had also broken down nationalist sentiment, but was done in by its ideological rigidity. But Marxism has made a major comeback in the United States. We've discussed that, which the stage that awaited, Brzezinski argues, was globalism. Yes, he used that word openly, as essentially synonymous with internationalism. The fall of the Soviet Union was the start of the 1990s, conforms to the pattern Brzezinski lays out, in which the neoliberal variant on global capitalism triumphs over the rigid and defunct Soviet brand of communism. They rebranded communism and Marxism. The former actors no longer thought in terms of advancing the interests of their nations, as is clear of how jobs were outsourced to cheap labor countries in the U.S. As Paul Craig Roberts would observe in a classic article published a little over a decade later, because of changed technological absolute advantage had replaced comparative advantage as the guiding principle of free trade. Free traders had become de facto globalists because they enhanced globalism whether they knew it or liked it or not. We saw this in the trading markets. Just kept getting tied in from New York all over the world, and we saw all these corporations in foreign countries go public to rake in millions and billions of dollars, and things got all tied together. Almost 20 more years have passed since Brzezinski's book and seen the coming of a contra-globalist rebellion, otherwise known as populism, in several nations which globalist corporate media describes as autocracies. The globalist leftist alliance in these places is prevented from doing as they please. Can you see that happening in America? I can. In the confabs, its spokespersons can tell us all we need to know about how we see the progress they've made. Now, obviously, when the idea of a world government was first conceived, as clearly it had been when H.G. Wells was writing, the necessary technological infrastructure did not exist. But, my friends, it does now. What is alarming is how few have noticed this Trilateral Commission comment. A search turned up just one article written by an American, Patrick Wood, who has been sounding warnings about the Trilateral Commission since its early days in 1970. Now, we've been sounding the alarm too. Wood learned to do historical research from the late, great Anthony C. Sutton, who unearthed the financial deep connections between Wall Street and the Bolsheviks, the Nazis, and other bad actors of the past century. In other words, this has never been about advancing an ideology such as Marxism. Many on the right had this wrong from the start. Some still do. Now, I've been thinking about this, folks, and I'm writing this out. I'm trying to put the pieces together. I've got an idea floating in my head, and when I get it put together, you'll be the first to hear it. And it's coming from this. This has been about building the infrastructure for and then imposing global power which knows no ideology, unless you consider techno-feudalism to be an ideology and not the three-tiered state of affairs in the offing. The global ruling class, its immediate administrators, underlings and apprentices, and populations of permanently cash-strapped, controlled serfs to be kept pacified with various forms of Huxleyan soma. Most are already addicted to smartphones and many to video games. Is your brain spinning in your head right now? This has been going on before some of you were even born. Klaus Schwab speaks of stakeholder capitalism, and we've talked about this in the past, which is not capitalism at all, of course. It is, and we've talked about the difference between stakeholder and shareholder. All right. It has nothing to do with free enterprise. It will choke free enterprise as the COVID lockdowns did. We will be looking at the universalizing of the kind of system in which political power is awarded to hand-picked charlatans. If you need an example, look at Joe Biden, although establishment Republicans are no better. I like this guy. He's not holding back, in which the cash-strapped serfs will answer to faceless technocrats via screens, in which economics will reign supreme. The logical culmination, we must add, of materialism as a world view. This is where the complete replacement of Christendom with materialism has brought us. Placement of Christendom with materialism has brought us. I talked about last week Christian survival in a secular world, and we addressed this a little bit. So now what? We can pretty much, as we have been doing, we can pretty much do as we have been doing, which is next to nothing. While guys like Patrick Wood, Stephen Yates, and myself, and many others continue spinning our wheels, shouting into the wind. But we will keep shouting. We can organize, although it seems a bit late for that. I disagree. All right, and he goes on a few things. I'm going to skip over that. Just look at the efforts to destroy Trump with lawful, e.g., the political persecution likely about to begin in Manhattan. Did begin. This was written before that. Directed by globalist George Soros funded DA, and Soros was trying to. I don't know him. But he did. Psychos like Alvin Bragg would like to arrest every Trump supporter out there. And I'm sure he and his minions would like to yank the internet access of guys like you and I. My friends, they want to cut us off from the rest of the world. The globalist ruling class cannot have a populist at the helm of the world's largest political economy. They cannot have populations of informed populists who vote or writers who support them. I'm sure they are working on ways to shut down those of us Schwab recently called the frivolous fringe, or Obama called the common people. We can separate ourselves in the manner I've always described, although I'm increasingly dubious that such a solution can work in the long run. And if we've learned anything, or if we've learned nothing from the repressive measures taken beginning in March 2020, which were global, it is that there is no place to go. Yes, there is. It's still America. We the people will get our power back. Now, we can look at, in some ways, a consolation that the New World Order will not last. No empire based on fraud, lust for power, or when these fail, brute force has ever endured. This one will be no different in the respect. And this is where they don't teach history anymore, because if they did, they would know that socialist communist countries always fall flat on their face. It will, however, be the first empire to not just worldwide, but built up on the pseudo-prosperity of printed fiat money gone digital. Think of the central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which are being worked on now utilizing blockchain technology. The first was just introduced in Nigeria, called the Naira. It's being test-driven in Africa's largest economy. The Federal Reserve has been tentatively called FedCoin, but they have FedNow, FEDNOW, one word, with the N capitalized, and FedCoin. We've talked about this. This has never been done before, so we're moving into uncharted waters, but no one can change the basic laws of nature, which include the nature of money, the real thing backed by precious metals such as gold and silver. Were governmental central banking complexes able to print or digitize their way to even greater prosperity, Zimbabwe would have become the richest nation in the world. Now, our country is trying to print money to bring down America. Everything they're doing under the Biden administration is a negative to you and I and to the world. The New World Order's own money system will be its downfall, even if none of us live to see the implosion. I know of no better way to end this thing than by citing my own prophetic remarks, given what we've already seen: massive inflation, rising homelessness, skyrocketing violent crime, and epidemics of substance abuse, mental health disorders, and a rising suicide rate, especially among the young. Where do we go from here? One way of responding is just to say, we, the people, take back this country from the super elite, or the United States will not survive as a major power. If we do not take back our country, present trends will continue unabated. Their consequences will gradually worsen, and our standard of living will drop precipitously over the next decade or so as our society becomes techno-fraudist or feudalist. It may do so anyway, because the time has come to pay the piper for over 4 decades of mounting false prosperity. Now, folks, I have been saying since the mid-1980s, America is living on a false economy. It has all been built on debt. Look at the amount of debt, corporate, personal, and government debt out there. It is staggering. It's overwhelming. It's almost incomprehensible. The other thing that's a challenge before us, and it's happening today in front of us, is the new worries that America is on the verge of losing the petrodollar privilege and the world currency reserve. Now, how is this happening? Right now in front of us. Now, I want to go back. Remember a few weeks ago when Xi Jinping met with Putin in Russia? Not for 3 hours, 3 days. 3 days they met. What were they talking about? Where does the United States economy stand, their government? What's going on there? Are they at the point of weakness that we can move forward now with the New World Order? Now, what has happened since that meeting? Saudi Arabia has signed a peace agreement with Iran. They used to be brutal enemies. Now they've signed a peace accord. Russia has done the same thing with Iran. China's in the process. When Biden withdrew from Afghanistan, he surrendered the Middle East over to Russia, China, and the Taliban. They're in control of the Middle East. Then Saudi Arabia, OPEC Plus, which Russia is part of, decided Sunday that they were going to cut 1 million barrels of production a day. Cut less. So what has happened to gas prices, oil prices? They've gone up dramatically. $4 or $5 a barrel. They're trying to get it up to $100 a barrel. Argentina, Venezuela, all these other oil-producing countries are increasing their oil production. The United States is the only country in the world right now reducing its oil production. We wouldn't be having these problems if we were still energy independent because Trump got us there. And that's the first thing that Joe Biden attacked and tried to shut down day one of his presidency. We would not be here today. The dollar would be sound. Our economy would be sound if Joe Biden had just walked into the White House and said, let's keep doing what's happening because it's successful. But no, he had to tear it all down, and they're continuing to tear it down. The dollar is being attacked from around the world. BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and there's other countries in there too. Now, China and Brazil just did this big treaty, again, to hurt America. But BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, all caps, B-R-I-C-S, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have created a new currency to challenge the U.S. dollar. China was not able to do it with the yuan, just their currency. Russia was not, well, they never even tried with the ruble. The ruble is nothing. But BRICS, which is a bank, has come out with a new currency. All these other countries, a lot of them, are creating their own CBDCs. They're digital currency banks. Do you think what's happening to the banking system in America right now is a coincidence? It is to weaken and tighten up the banking system, put more controls on them, and basically shut down the little banks and move that money into the big banks so it would be easier to switch over to a digital currency. Now, you can call me a conspiracy nut. you can do whatever you want. Call me whatever names you want, because I won't hear them. I don't care. Monica Crowley said, it's really hard to overstate exactly how catastrophic the abandonment of the U.S. dollar would be as the world's global reserve currency. Look, since the end of World War II, the dollar has been the safe place to go, and it's been backed up by a couple of things. It originally was backed up by gold, but President Nixon took us off the gold standard. So there's no hard asset backing up the dollar anymore for the last 50 years. But also, it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars. If that were to end, that would mean the end of the U.S. dollar. If Saudi Arabia decides to join with America's enemies here and start trading oil in different currencies, that is going to undermine the entire global economic system. And here at home, you know what it's going to mean for us. It's going to mean raging inflation, so much worse than anything we have ever seen. With so much at stake, the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, and large financial institutions want to prevent public confidence in the United States from slipping. Well, I don't know how they're going to do that, unless they're not going to go back on the gold system. We need to wake up here, folks. The world is after us, and Joe Biden is following their orders. I hope you understand that. This isn't just about the left taking over America. This is about the left becoming part of the global system. This is the war that we are in. This is why the Trilateral Commission could come out and say this 2023 is year one of the new world order. They feel like America has been weakened enough that they can take us over now. Folks, this is why the Second Amendment is in place. This is the foresight that our founding fathers saw. The Second Amendment. They do not want to come in here and try to do what they want to do. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our music to tell us that our time is up. And thank you for listening, being here, being a supporter. Contact me at medlockpost@gmail.com. We love it. Yes, this is a little salsa music for all those illegals coming across the southern border. They need all the support they can get. We're a little Babylon Bee humor there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the Medlock Post radio show, the All-American program where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. Thank you for being here, and may God bless America.